welcome back to Previously Prohibited. I'm Jenin Eunice here with my co-host Melissa Whitty, and we have an amazing guest today, Dominic Tripi, who is a political commentator and writer, and we're going to talk about the Brigitte Macron scandal and Candace Owens' coverage, Xavier Passard's coverage, and whether or not she is a man. I think we probably all vote yes, but we'll get there eventually. And whatever else comes up that we might end up talking about. So Mel, over to you.
Yes, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much, Dominic, for being with us today. We're so excited. I was so excited to get you on because I knew that you'd been following this story. We've been following it. Like Jenny and I are texting every single day. Have you watched this? This is crazy. Did you see this? And so I wanted to hear your perspective on it, especially you being a guy, you being a kind of a politics hawk. You know all of this stuff. You're in it. What do you think? Hold on. What did you think before you started watching, and what do you think now?
Okay, so in the beginning of this, when Candace had first reported on it, I figured, I respect Candace. I respect her, dedication to truth and journalistic integrity. But even considering those things and me being a personal fan, I thought, girl, this might just be just a little bit too much. This is a little bit far-fetched. I'm not too sure. Yeah, there's some unsightly pictures at the beach and things, but I just simply thought that it was maybe a bit too far. That being said, she sure enough came out with another episode a few months later, or probably a few weeks later, and it discussed the very strongly worded 110-page letter from Macron. And basically, it started to, when someone's very defensive of something, typically when a silly story like that comes out, people kind of just ignore it. This was the behavior of someone that had something to hide, that was trying to throw their legal and throw their status around to sort of, intimidate Candace Owens. And then when she began to release just some more details as far as Brigitte Macron's background, which we all have come to find is extremely difficult to look into, I took more of an interest to it and started to do some digging myself. And sure enough, it's led me down a path where now I'm no longer a skeptic. I am completely on board with the narrative that she's been discussing about these guys.
Yeah, I think and the more you start to dig into it, the more you see, and I think we saw this a lot too with a lot of people in American politics, right? We have these like young, up and coming politicians, right? They kind of seem to come out of nowhere. I can think of, of course, Barack Obama, and then we had Kamala Harris, but also there's a lot of this that reminds me of J.D. Vance. Also, this kind of catapulting from relative obscurity into serious positions of power, right? And J.D. Vance, we can trace his, obviously, not on the same level as Macron, but these people just kind of really taking a fast track out of nowhere into serious positions of power. And Macron's is once you scratch the surface a little bit, you realize you're like, there's actually nothing there behind this guy.
Well, and he also was supposed to be this genius, but it turns out his performance at school and at work was actually mediocre at best. And if anything, had sort of been massaged by his bosses and stuff in order to present this idea of him as a genius that would explain his meteoric rise to power, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I had sort of this similar reaction where I was like, when I first heard about it, like, I don't really care. Okay. It's if someone can give me the proof in like a minute, that's great. But like, I'm not interested in spending 6 hours of my life on this, but Mel convinced me. So I started watching it, and I think the ultimate issue has been incorrectly framed as like whether or not Brigitte Macron was born a man, as the transgender. I think it's really much more about like the fact that the Macrons aren't who they say they are, that Macron is clearly, put in place in order to accomplish other people's aims. He's kind of a puppet, and that there's been so much deception in order to keep this lie in place.
Oh, definitely. I honestly think that the French would have gone for it if, it would have just been so French, right? Like, not only is she 20 something years older than him, but she's a man too. Like, it's so, I just feel like they would have gotten down with that. And I don't think it would have been, it would have been scandalous, but I don't know if it would have been like a total deal breaker. But it's clear that there's a lot more that went into this. And you just have to scratch the surface again to see that, number one, it's all smoke and mirrors with him. And where the hell did this woman even come from, right?
I think it's important just to, remind ourselves that think about how the degree that these people's lives get picked apart before they're, even remotely close to being in office.
Yeah.
I mean, every detail's known. There's like, if you go back and look at previous U.S. presidents, you can find pictures of these guys virtually from every time of their life, and it's just a moment's notice. You can do it on Google. So the fact that there's this much obfuscation, this much purposeful omission of what would otherwise be considered very easily found documents. It just creates, I'm not sure what they expect. Of course it creates a ton of suspicion and very deservedly so. It's ridiculous.
I agree. Something that I thought was, I was curious, like, how common is it, right? When I first started looking, I was like, how common are these, is it in France? Like, I don't know why I thought, I was like, maybe they just don't take a lot of pictures over there, right? And she's definitely older and whatnot. So I pulled up some other French first ladies, right? To see what kind of pictures I could find of them when they were younger. And so pretty famous French first lady, Danielle Mitterrand. Her husband was president sometime in the 90s, right? And she is, she's quite a bit older than him, but of course she is coming of age during the First World War. Right? And I could find more pictures of this woman when she was living under German occupation, okay, than I could find of Brigitte Macron, who grew up in a well-to-do chocolatier family in the 60s, right? That was like, I was like, okay, clearly there is something really not right here, because I found pictures of Mitterrand when she was a child, when she was an adolescent, when she was in high school, when she was coming out of college, and right as she was getting married. Like, I could just track her and her children. And obviously she had a different, she didn't get divorced or anything like that. But that was another big thing. I was like, okay, no, the French clearly take pictures just the same as everybody else.
And she was from like a relatively wealthy family.
A very wealthy family.
So it's not like she grew up in poverty and didn't have a camera.
No. And that was the other thing. I just assumed, she must have been, they must have been poor. When I found out that, no, actually, they were super wealthy, like very wealthy. And that's what I thought Xavier Poussard, he did such a good job of kind of showcasing for people, was that was something that they really tried to sell the French public on, was that, yes, she's from us, right? She's from, like, her family, they're not these like wealthy financiers or bankers, they're chocolatiers, right? And they are people of the land, and they have been here all of this time. So it should have, you would think, if you're going to try to sell that angle, that you would really be able to produce some evidence that this woman actually is in fact a woman of the people and whatnot. But what did you guys think of the interview yesterday with Xavier Poussard?
You go first, Dominic.
Well, to be honest with you, I really thought that it was. I expected to see. I saw what I expected to see, which is, these powerful people that are threatening journalists with as much. They're threatening these people, and they're making them very scared and dissuaded from reporting on it further. So it sounded like, this gentleman was essentially kind of blackballed. He was consistently met with every possible obstacle that one could face as far as his, journalistic pursuit of just finding this stuff out. And it sounds like through the help of Candace, because she's got quite a bit more, financial means, and she's just got more of a warrior spirit just in general, especially being from America, where, free speech is just sort of an absolute right that people are going to stick by no matter what. To me, it just seems like very clearly this person is a man. Like, there's so many different things. There's just an unbelievable amount of coincidences about it to where I'm not really too sure what else needs to be shown by Candace or by this gentleman in order for us to just come to that conclusion, categorically and officially. Because
Now,
I
she
think-
can't produce the documents.
Yeah, to me, I totally agree with that. I mean, if I was, the first lady and my biological sex came into question, which I'd hope it wouldn't, but I could prove it in 5 minutes. Like my birth certificate, my son's birth certificate saying that I gave birth to him in the hospital, like, wouldn't be hard. Like, why?
Pictures of you pregnant.
Yeah, like these are not difficult things to prove. And if there was, for people who aren't following it, the sort of central thesis is that Brigitte is actually her brother, Jean-Michel, and assumed his sister's identity at some point, probably in the late 70s, early 80s. We don't know what happened to Brigitte, which is like my big question, the real Brigitte, who's depicted in some photos that they claimed were Brigitte Macron, but actually seemed to be Brigitte Trogneau, and it's not the same person. So Trogneau was supposed to be her maiden name. And photos of Jean-Michel, by contrast, as a boy and also as an older teenager, like 18, 19, show a very, very strong resemblance to the current First Lady, taking into consideration she's had a lot of plastic surgery, obviously. Nose is definitely smaller and stuff. But the fact, and why wouldn't, if Jean-Michel is a different person from Brigitte Macron, why doesn't she just go have lunch with her brother and take a photo and call some press people? It's very, very easy to dispel this if it's not true.
Very
and
easy.
It's not sorry, I did want to, it's not like just some crazy journalists in America who are covering it. Like, lots of very serious French journalists have taken this up and, been intimidated, and, people at sort of mainstream publications. So this is something that if this rumor was going around, you would want to dispel if it wasn't true.
Right. And you start to look into some of the other people that Candace mentioned, especially at the beginning of the series. I thought it was so fascinating was the Dumas scandal, which was the scandal of this head of the French. They have this. It's like they're intelligista. They all go to the same college, right? It's something like 5 of the last 6 presidents have all gone to this same college, and it was being ran by this actual pedophile, this man Olivier Dumas, and he I think we talked about this on the show before. His stepdaughter wrote a book accusing him essentially of raping her brother when he was 12 years old, and Dumas actually confessed to it. And what you look into when you see that is like, there was a lot of internal family drama when this first came out, and then people just start dying around them, right? Yeah. And it's serious. And so one of the people that died was the aunt of the little boy, who was obviously a grown man at that time. She was this famous French actress, and then all of a sudden she just they said that she died via suicide by drowning herself in her pool. Which is like, I'm sorry, nobody chooses to drown themselves. Like, that's not a thing, okay? No. I don't even know how that's, And then you start thinking about all of these other ways that it seems to be that the really rich and powerful in this world seem to be able to magically get people to commit suicide when they want to cause trouble for them. And I can't help but think of course, ChatGPT, the suicide case out there in San Francisco, where old dude's a whistleblower, and all of a sudden he's living a good life, goes on vacation to Hawaii, he's having a good time, and then comes home, and then just like in the middle of dinner gets up and decides to kill himself.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Jeffrey Epstein. We've got the Boeing whistleblower. Again, that was just such a clear case of murder to me, and again, I can think of right now off the top of my head 5 different cases of whistleblowers all of a sudden, risking it all and then just straight up just offing themselves, apparently, supposedly, So
one thing that comes to mind, with the whole Macron situation is, let's say that this is all true. Let's say she is a man. Let's say they've had, a grandiose lie of magnificent proportions. You know, if people are willing to lie about things like this, what else are they willing to lie about?
Yeah.
And also the fact that just such just horrible sexual things are also related to this case, as far as, you know, a 39-year-old man, woman being interested in a 14-year-old student, them consistently lying about the beginnings of their relationship, constantly pushing the age back in order to sound, you know, even though that's still a ridiculous age gap, especially considering it's from, you know, a pupil and a student. But there's just a lot of very nefarious details involving the beginning of their relationship anyways. And, you know, there's kind of a different culture in France as far as just very open sexually and things like that anyways. And you start to learn, like, when Brigitte got into the equivalent of like the French White House, she started incorporating all this art that was centered around, you know, pedophilic symbolism and things of that nature. And I just think that these people, and again, this is completely allegedly, this is totally just my own opinion, but I just think these people, especially considering that they are involved in lying about this crazy stuff that has to do with sex, I just wouldn't be surprised whatsoever to learn that they are involved in some of these worst underground sort of sexual things that only very elite people even have access to. And I think the more that you look into this, the background and stuff, it becomes increasingly likely that something like that could potentially be at play.
Oh, definitely. And then you look at the people that were surrounding, and like I said, you know, with Macron, it seemed like he was like almost like a paper tiger, right? There just wasn't a whole lot there once you start scratching the surface, and then you start to see that actually he's been catapulted by billionaires his entire career. And so something I was telling Dominic and Jenin before we got on, and I'll share it with everybody, was this guy. This guy, his name is Henry Hermand, and he was he died in 2016, but he was actually the first person behind Macron, right? And so he first met Macron when Macron was 25. He soon became his mentor, and then he quote unquote loaned him, but later in another article you find out he never had to give it back, 550,000 pounds when he was the inspector of finances, which is again a government job, so that seems very suspect to begin with. This old man was his best man at his wedding to Brigitte.
Wow.
And he's also the man who helped him to set up this his political party. So when he first got into when he decided he was going to run for president, and
What
so.
do you? No, sorry.
Yeah, so just finding that out, like, okay, first he's got this billionaire who's, you know, giving him $500,000, and in another article I read, it was for a chateau in Paris, so he could have, you know, basically live the life. Then he immediately, after he's the inspector of finance for a little bit, he gets the job at Rothschild. You know, David D. Rothschild personally gives him the job, personally helps guide him up. Then, you know, within like 2 years, he's made a managing partner at Rothschild, even though all of his coworkers say he's a moron. They can't figure out how the hell it is that he even has this job to begin with, let alone is, you know, now a managing partner. He gets this huge Nestle contract, which he then makes like $7 million off of. And then he's like, okay, bye guys, I'm going to go be the Minister of Finance now.
And there are also all these weird, there's all this, it's unclear what his childhood was. Like, he said he grew up in Amiens, but then nobody there knows him. And there are other records saying he grew up in Paris, or he was born in Paris. Do you guys have theories about, like, I mean, and then there's the fact that he seems to resemble Brigitte or Jean-Michel's son, Jean-Jacques, which I think some people are taking to, to insinuate that he might be Brigitte's son, which is very disturbing. But do you guys have, Dominic, why don't we start with you?
I heard something about them being cousins. I actually just heard that today. Now, I don't know how that's even possible, but I did hear that today. And then, gosh, Jenin, what was the other thing that you just spoke about right before the
fact he didn't grow up. There's some
Yes,
shady
yes,
stuff about where
yes.
he grew up. Maybe his parents were like a pediatrician and a
You're
psychiatrist, which
Well,
Candace
it was
seems to be
also it was
insinuating.
also
Like, yeah, go
it
ahead,
was
sir.
also that there was like three. I don't know if it was three separate birth certificates or there's three different versions apparently of where he was born.
okay.
And I guess like the Rothschilds had something to do with one of these. So it's very like, again, like when we look to one of our leaders of the past, we can just pull it up right away. And just a lot of these inconsistencies, they just seem to point towards, I don't know, they seem to really prove conspiracies. Like there's
Yeah.
clearly something up with this guy's background. They're clearly hiding things.
Yeah.
And the fact that, they're actively using their own government apparatuses to cover this up and fight it only makes it seem that much more likely that it's actually happening. So like the actions of someone that is forthcoming or has nothing to hide, they would simply just produce these pictures. And every time they ask the Macrons for pictures, it's always through their one previous best friend, through the national whatever the service is.
Yeah.
So, and they always find out these pictures are either manipulated or this woman had a previous history of fraud. So it's like, just show us some freaking pictures and we can call it a day.
And some of the photos were like photoshopped. It seemed like there was the lamp photoshopped out of the picture of young Jean Michel. Apparently they're theorizing to distract from him in the photo because like that's really Brigitte.
Yeah.
And all these weird things. And also like some of the photos of Brigitte seem to have been photoshopped to make her less resemble young Jean Michel.
Yeah.
Totally. And then
Yeah.
you can also just go to, and this is the last thing I'll say as far as photographs go, but like, I mean, look, it's clearly observable to me just from some of these recent. Have you guys seen the pictures that the paparazzi leaked of Emmanuel Macron seemingly like kind of like hugging or kissing a man, and then Brigitte is there as well, but she's in a bathing suit, and like, look, there's a bulge in the bathing suit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
Let's.
what I've seen from any other woman wearing a bathing suit. That's
Wait,
my opinion.
she hasn't had surgery? I
No,
assumed she had the whole.
You haven't seen the picture, have you?
Have you
No.
seen it, Mel? Have
Hold
you?
on. Oh, I have. I know exactly. Yeah.
Clearly, look, it's just
Oh yeah.
weird, guys.
Oh, trust me. Hold on. I'll pull her up for you.
It's not normal. I mean, you're gonna be like, oh my God. Like clearly it's a dude, wouldn't you say?
I was already sold, but all I want now is to know what happened to the real Brigitte and who Macron is. I feel like those are the real holes.
Okay, this is one of them, but
Right.
there's the one that's
There
Oh,
you
oh my God. Yeah.
Okay.
That's-
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No amount of
That's
pubic
a-
hair can do that.
No.
I mean, yeah. I don't care if you're like on double the dose of what a male bodybuilder gets. Like, it's just that's not happening.
No. It's just yeah. When I saw that, I was like, but there was like 3 pictures that were taken, so it wasn't just the angle. It was like clearly like
Yeah, there's one that's even worse. I'm not.
yeah.
Wow.
Like there's
Wow.
seriously, it's what in the world is she wearing or
Oh, God.
he or whatever. So I don't know. So you guys want to hear something really interesting about that? And it also goes back to those pictures, right? So the Macrons are the first couple, right? So apparently there is this place that the presidents of France, they go every year and they take a vacation. It's like they're known to be taking vacations there, right? And this used to always be the place where all of the press would have kind of access to the presidents, right? And they'd get to take pictures of them with their kids and whatnot. And it was always like just this kind of unspoken understanding that, okay, when we're on vacation here, this is what you guys get to do, right? And then when we go on vacation elsewhere, you leave us alone, right? And so the first time the Macrons went on this vacation, they barred the press from going there. And I can't remember the name of it, but if you look this up, if you look the Macrons sue art gallery, right, you'll find out. So what happened was the press still, it's like, okay, well, we're not going to listen because this is our right to come take pictures of you. They took some pictures of them riding bikes, right? Well, this art gallery owner, he decided to like make a have a gallery of all the presidents through the years on their vacations, right? And of course he has the Macrons in there. Well, they sue this art gallery for these pictures to be taken down, right?
Wow.
And then they put out restraining orders against the press. And specifically, they did not want to be photographed ever without their permission when they are on vacation. That's weird, okay? Yeah. That is, when you are the president of a country, you just don't get that level of privacy. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's just something you actually forfeit when you become the president. I don't know what else to tell you. Can you imagine Donald Trump suing the press and putting out, taking out restraining orders saying you're not allowed to take pictures of us when we're on vacation?
Well, not to mention this too, on those same pictures that we were talking about, there's also separate pictures of Emmanuel Macron seemingly fooling around with men, like in a homosexual way. So like the truth is like if Brigitte is confirmed a biological male, from his behavior, that would seem to match because he's doing really weird, fruity stuff with other dudes on camera. So, like, the guy's got clearly a weird, perverse past. This woman has an interest in, like, prepubescent boys from the history, allegedly. So, like, this is a match made in horror, disgusting nightmare world.
It is. And, of course, it has a link to Israel. 26 minutes, guys. We did it. We doubled our record from last time. And
Wait,
Candace,
I don't know about the link.
Yeah, so Candace brought this up on the show before Poussard. And she says, and she only hinted at it a little bit. I'm guessing they're going to go into it a little bit more. Of course, y'all know me. I've already been digging on it. So Algeria was a French colony, as I believe was Morocco as well, right? And then, of course, Algeria had a really bloody independence. I guess it was a really harsh split. Anyways, it's always apparently been a little bit of a rough relationship. And when the Macrons went to Algeria in 2017, this was really weird. And this was news in Algeria in 2017. The Algerians were like, okay, something's not right here, because she asked privately to go see this university. She said that she was familiar with, that she had studied there, right? Except the fact that she didn't study there because there's no record of her. And but her brother,
Jean-Michel,
he did in fact there. Even though Right, even though that was actually even really eyebrow raising when I was reading into it today, because that was right after they had gained independence. And basically it was like, if you were a Frenchman, you were probably going to get killed if you were in Algeria at the time. Like, it was very, very violent, early 60s. And so that was already kind of like, everyone was like, what do you mean you studied here? Like, at no point in, the history that you would have been able to come here, would it have been safe for you to come here? So that like set off alarm bells for everybody, right? And then come to find out, now we know that her brother, and that was the picture I think that I had pulled up for a little bit.
Yeah, pull that one up again.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
That's where the picture came from, right? The Algerian school.
Yes.
Candace keeps pushing this one right now.
Yes. So this is
Is that picture conclusive to you guys? Like, is that enough for you? That's like case closed.
Definitely. Because
can we pull it up again?
Yeah, right there.
It's like so damn well. Yeah, considering the fact that she's had a lot of work on her nose. Then
Yeah.
So the lips and the pout right here. But what I was looking at today when I looked for pictures of her earlier was the ears, right? Because
that's really, what I was just gonna say, the ears. Right. That's what.
So let's pull up.
This is like 90%. Like,
yeah,
it's not like 100. Like, I want it to be 100.
Yeah,
it's like 90. That
was I was like. I said I was about there. Like, a lot of people are like, "That's it. That's conclusive. I have no more questions."
Yeah, I want it to be 100. I want it to be 150, but it's like 90, maybe like 91.
I'm sure she's also had a lot of other surgery. Like she had all that feminizing surgery from that
Right.
plastic surgeon so I'm sure there was like chin stuff and other things. So it's
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah.
Probably had a lot.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me see. Uh,
This is
let
a
me.
dude. It's a like, bro. Sorry to just jump here, but like, the most feasible conclusion that we can come up with is that she is her brother, and then
Yeah.
basically just like turned into Brigitte and disappeared the identity of her brother at that point. Is that
Yeah,
kind of
but
what you're
where's
thinking?
yeah, because that seems to be what happened. They claimed that Jean Michel was like at one of her summit ceremony or something, but they just like pointed out some really old fat guy and said like that's the brother and that was it. And I mean he doesn't look a lot like it. It could be he's a lot older, but I want to know what happened to Brigitte. That's not been explained.
Right, and
'Cause-
everybody's really because they don't want to get sued, obviously.
Yeah.
And and it's kind of one of those things. If you can't prove it, then you better just it's better just not.
What if they killed Brigitte and Jean Michel assumed her identity just to throw off?
Okay, so like, at some point, are you saying that like Brigitte and Jean Michel were both around for sure?
Oh yeah. Well,
Are we
it
sure,
seems
or
there are birth records, and then there are the two photos that they produced, which were the communion photo and the wedding photo, that don't really look like Brigitte Macron. It seems that it was Brigitte Trudeau. So Trogno, sorry, Trogno. And the wedding photo, there was an announcement in the newspaper that would have been very hard to fabricate. It seems to be contemporaneous with the wedding in like the 70s, I think. So there does seem to have been a Brigitte Trogno that was the brother of Jean
Right.
Michel, but she disappeared at the same time that Brigitte Macron emerged.
Now, did the wedding announcement say because that was what I thought Candace was very, very particular with her questioning. She said, in fact, is the Brigitte Macron in this picture? She said this is a Brigitte
Yeah.
Macron in this
Yeah.
picture, but is this the same one who is the sister to?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is this the same Brigitte Macron who lives
But Brigitte
in the
Trogno, it was
Yeah.
Brigitte Trogno.
Yeah.
It was the maiden name.
Yeah.
'Cause- yeah.
Yeah.
So
Is this the same one that resides in the Elysee Palace today? And of course
they
won't.
wouldn't answer that. Yeah.
Now,
So-
Jenin, as a lawyer, what do you think about? I know that that's not your specialty, like defamation law, but if you had a client just come to you, what would you would say? Just answer the damn questions, right? I would think.
If it was true, I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a defamation law specialist, but if you do First Amendment, you have to know it because they kind of, rub up against each other. You have to know where the First Amendment ends and the defamation begins.
Right.
But I mean, I would say if you're not a man, like just answer
Just
the
prove
question.
it.
Even if somehow all your records from your whole life, there was some fire that burned all your records, then just answer the questions, and then we can put this whole thing to rest. But if my client told me, well, okay, actually, I am transgender and all this stuff, I would say, okay, well we can't lie directly, so what we'll do is exactly what they're doing.
Okay, yeah. See, that's what I was thinking. Like, this is all just feels like very legalese, very, just bullshit lawyer talk. All
Oh,
right. And not answering the questions directly the way, like, I am like I try to be as straightforward as I can. And when I don't want to be, I kick the can around the subject exactly the way that they're doing. And I think everybody does that, and,
So are the two possibilities that so it was what is it, Jean Michel or whatever? What's the name of the brother again?
Jean Michel.
Jean-Michel.
So the two possibilities are for when they're kids. Is Jean Michel is in a picture with this Trogno individual, and we don't know what happened to Trogno, and Jean Michel ends up being Brigitte. And then the other option is that the person that's Trogno or whatever is actually Brigitte, and then Jean-Michel is actually real, and he's just like a mysterious guy that never was seen, essentially.
Yeah, which seems unlikely.
Are those the two possible outcomes, though? Are those the two possible, choices?
Basically, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like everything I've seen, I actually came across another journalist. He's actually a Muslim guy who is French, and he's been talking about this for a really long time too. And I've noticed that he's also a French citizen, and he too has not been sued ever. And he's done, back in 2022, he was doing live streams on Facebook, basically saying all of this, right? So again, it's very interesting. If you pull it up, you'll see all of these headlines about these women being sued for defamation, right? And then when you really start digging on it, and Candace has really beat this down, this is like, these women are not sued because they were proven wrong. They were sued because on very, very specific details that they got wrong. And then when you see like the teeny tiny little, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, it's like 7,000 pounds, which of course is, or not pounds, but euros, which is of course a lot of money to most people. But in a defamation suit, you would, I think, a couple million really. And no, like they're having to pay, one fine was like 7,000 and one fine was 8,000 euros. Like, that's it. And,
well, right. And like one of them was in the wedding photo, Natasha Ray had said that the groom was this guy, and it wasn't him. It wasn't him. It was someone else. So it didn't go to the heart of the issue, but it was wrong. And so just so their lawyers don't come after us, I was joking about the murder, that they murdered Brigitte Macron. That was a joke. Just to be clear. I do not want to get sued for defamation.
Okay, so here's something.
No, just really quick to Dominic's question. Basically, either Brigitte disappeared or Jean-Michel disappeared. So, like, it's weird either way. Because there clearly aren't both of them around, and there's no record of either of them dying. So.
And what about the Trogneau person, though? Are they...
Wait, Trogneau is just their last name. So that was like their childhood last name. So it's Jean-Michel Trogneau and Brigitte Trogneau. And there are photos of both of them. And the little boy in the photo looks a lot like Brigitte.
But wasn't there, in the old photo, the person that looks like a little girl, wasn't that allegedly a different person, though?
There was some theory that it might have been one of the, like, sister's daughters, like Jean-Michel's sister's daughter or something, but I think it could be Brigitte. Here, seems there are birth records, and there is the wedding record for Brigitte Trogneau, and there's the photos, and she does not look like Brigitte Macron. So that's the little boy.
So there's birth records for both Brigitte and Jean-Michel.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was definitely born. So something else I thought was really interesting about this picture is Candace pulled this up yesterday, and you see, so this is the original photo that was not released by, this was found by basically some journalist that was actually just, they weren't even trying to look for anything. They were just looking for pictures of the family to put together for some kind of memorial or some kind of piece. I essentially likened it to, if you know who Ken Burns is, it's like the French Ken Burns, and this lady puts together all these autobiography things for public television about the presidents and their first ladies. And so that woman, she had complained publicly, basically, that she couldn't find anything on Brigitte. Like, it was so almost impossible, and she couldn't get any photos that weren't approved through this Mimi Marchand person. But she found this photo, and I don't remember where. And this is the one that everyone was like, holy crap, who is this little boy right here? Because he looks exactly like Brigitte. Right? Then something happens, okay? And so remember this, I don't know how to pull up two pictures at one time. So remember that. The little boy
looked just like Brigitte, by the way.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, just like Brigitte. And then the photo gets reshared, okay? Yeah. But you can see the lamp has been taken out, and everyone's face is slightly pixelated. now, and no one's face more so pixelated than the little girls is
That
what
they
I noticed.
claim as Brigitte. So they claim the little girl is Brigitte.
Right. So let me see if I can.
Which it probably was Brigitte Trogneau, but that's not Brigitte Macron.
Right, but when you're using the when you're going back and you're using that face plus plus, which is what Xavier Poussard has done, right? You need, especially around the nose, you need kind of a clear picture. And as you can see, this one is the one with the lamp in it. Everybody's face is nice and pixelated. It's very easy to do the AI face matches, but then when they re-released the picture and they go back to this picture without, and again you can see her face, that I noticed that right away. It's like the nose has almost been disappeared, and everybody else's face is a little bit more pixelated as well.
Do we know the person in the top right? Her?
Her?
Yeah.
So this is one of the sisters, right? So this is she had this is the sister that died. This is the older brother who he died in 2014, I believe, or maybe it was 2016. He was like the he's the guy who ran the chocolate factory. His son now runs the chocolate factory. And then I believe this might be his wife, but it could be another sister. I don't know. But yeah, this is a sister and this is a sister. And so,
I mean, I think that the claim is that that's Brigitte, and that's the same woman who lives in the White House, or the Elysee Palace. But I think
this
it's pretty
one,
clear
this
that
little
that's
girl.
the woman in the Elysee Palace. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So what happened to the little girl? Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's like two theories. That one was that she died with the older sister that we saw, who did in fact die in a car accident. One of Natasha Ray's initial theories was actually that Brigitte Macron never existed, and that little girl was actually that sister's daughter. And the sister did have a child who was 5 months old when her mother died in the car accident. And she didn't die, but then apparently she died like a couple years later of pneumonia or something. Very tragic. I mean, it's really, really sad, this family. That's a lot of loss to go through in just a couple of years. But there were news stories at the time that reported that Brigitte that there was a child who died with the sister in the car accident, but then I guess there were no death certificates. So that's what everybody thought was really weird. Was we've got this newspaper clipping that said there's a child, which would have been Brigitte's right age, and then but then when they go to look at the death certificates, they don't exist.
Well, but then do you have the what is it, the christening photo and then the wedding photo? Do you have those?
Yeah,
easily?
Yeah.
So the question kind of seems to be like, who is known to be Brigitte Macron today? If she is the little boy on the very left of that picture, then what happened to the
real Brigitte?
Who happened to that little girl, whoever it might be? Is kind of
Brigitte Trogneau, yeah, or yeah, who they say is Brigitte Trogneau.
Yeah.
So,
I thought I did, and I
so like,
didn't.
there's no records of her really afterwards. You're saying until past her being very young, and then there's also no real records of Jean Michel, her alleged brother. Like, there's really no pictures of him or any of that.
No, they won't. Yeah. So that there are those two photos I mentioned, the christening and from when she was, I don't know, 14 or something, 12, and then of Brigitte Trogneau, but she doesn't look that much like Brigitte Macron. And then her wedding photo, I
don't know why that's not. I mean, it's actually kind of odd that it's not coming up, because it's one of the very few pictures.
So, like, your guys' best guess is that she assumed the identity of her brother, or is Jean Michel.
Yeah. Wait.
Oh, we totally forgot. So again, I know that we're a little bit all over the place for people listening, but. And this was, I actually thought that the episode before the Xavier Poussard the episode with just Candace, so it would be number 5, number 6 total in the series because she had an intro, but number 5 in the list. She talks about, again, so in 1977, there was a French talk show that did an interview with a trans woman, right? Woman had just transitioned. And this woman's name was Vivette, right? And they don't show her face, but they do, you can hear her voice, and she talks about how she was a woman, all the stuff that we hear about the trans today, like, and I was always a woman, I mean, whatever, I mean, I'm not even going to go in there, but they did a voice analysis on this interview, right, and it was 100% matched up to Brigitte Macron. Of this person, 1977, this transgendered woman coming on saying that she had lived with a woman. She had been married, right? Okay, so Vivette is the name. Guess what the name of Jean-Michel, who is Brigitte's brother, guess what the name of his wife was? Vivette, okay? So if you know anything about
I think it was Veronique, by the way.
Veronique,
yeah.
sorry. Veronique Vivette, same. It was the same as the white, okay? And if you know anything about like trans wives and things like that, there's this very phenomenon, very strange phenomenon where a lot of times transgender men will take on the persona of their wives, right? And they like try to become their wives. It's super creepy. And so just to kind of take over his wife's name and everything, I thought was so crazy. But they did an analysis because there are certain speech patterns that we all have that you just can't get rid of. I know everybody's got filler words. Apparently she's got her own filler phrases that she likes to use, and she just kept saying it over and over again. But I guess when that video broke, most people in France were like, holy crap, that's the first lady. Like, we know her voice and we can tell right away. So that was another little piece of like tidbit that it was like, okay, you have to answer for these things, right? You do. And because we have no idea who is blackmailing the French. Right? And of course it's Israel. I just know. They're just behind it. I just know it. All right? I just know it. All right? I know that their nuclear weapons are in dire straits because they're old and they haven't been able to steal anything from us lately. So they're probably looking to the French thinking, what can we bribe out of them? They got some issues with their nuclear cleanup. They need some islands to dump it on. France still owns a couple of those. I just know at the end of the day, it's always going to come back to them. That's my last.
Dominic,
I like where you're going
theories?
with it. I don't really know a ton about France-Israel relations, but if you want to talk about the U.S. relations, that's my wheelhouse. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they're blackmail experts. We all know that, especially through Epstein and all the other channels they have. So
yeah, what are you looking for the picture?
Yeah, I think I got it. Hang on. So just to put this to rest. So this is what is it? Communion? I don't know anything about this stuff.
It's a
photo.
communion picture.
So that's the little girl, or that's who they say is Brigitte Trogneau. And when they were pressed to produce photos of her young, that was what they.
Right.
That was what they. Yeah.
Except what people noticed right away was actually that doesn't necessarily look so much like Brigitte as it does look like the daughter, Stéphane Aussier. And so Stéphane is the only child of Brigitte who actually like comes out in public and like defends the mom, right? And when you see the pictures of Stéphane, it's clearly her. And
I wouldn't say I'm sure about that, but and so that's the wedding photo I was talking about. And there was like a newspaper wedding announcement saying Brigitte Trogneau marries this guy. So I don't know. Dominic, what do you think?
That doesn't really look like her. I mean,
yeah.
Doesn't really look like her, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know if you could, I mean, especially you being a lawyer, I don't think you could really necessarily prove it's not her. I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
People change a lot over, you know, a long period of time.
Especially when they get lots of plastic surgery.
Yeah, and of course, you know, the quality of the photo, you know, it's a
Yeah.
pretty old photograph. So
Right.
No, I wouldn't say I could say for sure based on that alone, but I think it's all it's all these little pieces of the puzzle.
yeah, and it's just, again, it just goes down to the fact that you could very easily disprove this stuff by just providing pictures of these people that they're
Yeah.
asking for. And it would all be
Yeah.
over in like a day.
And their birth certificates. Well, no,
Exactly.
that wouldn't work because actually they would just produce Brigitte.
Yeah, they
That
could
doesn't
just-
prove
This
that
looks
she's-
good.
yeah.
This picture looks
Yeah.
good.
So this is the one that Xavier Poussard, he ran that wedding photo against all of her like a bunch of pictures, and he used this Face Plus Plus, which is this super advanced Chinese AI. It's what the Chinese use for their social credit system, right? When they're always scanning everybody's faces, right? So it's highly accurate. And as you can see, when compared every stage of her life, the probability is low that this is the same person, right? It's just not, right? And then we'll pull up different photo. Now we'll see. You can see. Okay, boom. So again, we've got low, 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 low. Okay. Then when we do this is one of the pictures of Jean-Michel. We've got a normal probability, it's probably, and then a high probability on all of them that yes, this is the same person.
Do you guys
Okay.
understand these numbers? Because I wouldn't look at this and be like 70.9%. Okay, I'm sold. Like that. That's not high enough for me to be certain. But I don't know if there's something I'm missing about how you interpret these numbers in context or something.
So from what she said on the show that she displayed it in, she said basically that anything over 70% was very high. So that's here, but yeah, if it says low, it's just not the same person.
Yeah.
And normal was okay, but then high, and she showed. I mean, they've got. I think they had about probably 20 different examples that they had cut from her, and always with the. I don't think I saw a single one with when it was compared to the little boy that said it was a low probability. It was all high probability or a couple normal. So. You
I
know,
think there's no doubt. She looks more like Jean-Michel Trogneau than she does Brigitte Trogneau. It's clear.
yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I mean, some of the other pictures and some of the other things, that's a little bit less, it's less provable. But as far as straight up who she looks like more, yeah, 100%. She looks
Yeah.
like the little boy. And then when you throw on top all of these inconsistencies and all these coincidences where she repeatedly can't produce pictures from certain time periods that normally every single other person would be able to very easily produce, yeah, of course. And she flatly denies answering legal questions. She has basically, at every opportunity to be able to dispel this, she repeatedly doesn't do it. So,
And
unfortunately,
it's a little.
yeah, maybe
It's
we
a
can't
little
legally
annoying.
say yes, definitively she's a man. However, you're not really putting yourself in a great position if your goal is to make yourself appear to be a woman. You look like
Right.
a freaking dude, my dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I
know?
think at this point, again, and I feel like once you become the president of a country, you actually do forfeit a lot of your own personal right. And when something becomes like, and I can see, maybe it's insulting to you or whatnot. I just think that if it were me, and here's the thing, I get called trans like all the time. Like people like come in to my mentions and they insult me all the time. They're like, "Are you a dude?" Like, I'm not kidding you. At least like twice a week, I'll have Zionists ask me when I transitioned, right? And I'm like, it's
That's
so
just, they're just trying to
it's-
get you.
People just say mean
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
The
right.
more
Like
base
I'm like.
you are, the worse it is.
It's like
Right.
kindergarten.
It is. And it's so stupid. I'm just like, I mean, I don't know. It's so weird. Like my sister, she was like, that would really hurt my feelings. I'm like, I genuinely think that I mean, they might as well just call me a big dumb head. Like it's so dumb. Like it's just so stupid. I'm obviously not a man, like, and I never have been, and you know, and so I can see, like, to the certain extent where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't even want to address that because it's so dumb. But at the same time, like, if it were a persistent thing, I would have zero problem proving it.
If you were the first president and there were serious journalists raising questions about it, you would.
Right. And I would actually probably have some fun with it, right? Like I would love to, like, if somebody was, I would love to just take down someone and say, like, oh, you don't think that I'm, you know, and then I would just flood them with pictures of me and my daughter when she was little and when I was pregnant and all of the things. I mean, I would want to drag them through the mud so bad that they would never be able to show their faces again and receive credibility. Like, that's what I would do personally. And it doesn't sound like she's above being vindictive at all whatsoever. And that's the other thing is I'm like, it's not like she's some kind of friggin', you know, choir teacher or anything. These people are pretty serious when they want to be. I mean, they sued a gallery owner because he dared to take a picture of them or feature a picture of them on bicycles. Like, who does that?
Oh, well, okay. If this was a criminal trial and you had to find it beyond a reasonable doubt, would you say would you find her?
Yeah,
Is she a man?
I would say
You'd say
she's
beyond
a
a reasonable doubt.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
What about you, Dominic?
Man, I'll be honest with you. With that bathing suit picture, I'm sorry, but there's just a little extra. You know, I don't know what the deal is, but
I mean, that's what they always
normal.
say. I know, they always say at criminal trials. I used to be a criminal defense lawyer. Like, it's not all doubt. It's not any doubt. It's a reasonable doubt. I think I would convict.
It's a reasonable doubt for sure. Seriously.
Yeah.
And I just think the whole thing is she's not operating like a person that's telling the truth whatsoever. It would be so easy just to do it.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to say though is, like, with the 1% chance that it's not true and she is a woman, I mean, how unbelievably just, like, shattered and completely embarrassed would you be? Because everyone just, like, you're a man. Like, forget the Michelle Obama thing. Like, she looks like a freaking beauty queen compared to this package of the bikini bottom. I mean, like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
That's not one that gets enough press. Like, yo, like, forget your investigation, but, like, I got a pair of eyes, and I just noticed some really weird stuff going on.
Well, that's because the mainstream press doesn't want people to, you know, they're all in league with the powers that be, so they have no interest in.
Well, just so you know, we know that there are people behind the scenes who are starting to feel and question whether or not they really missed the boat on this one. I even had somebody message me yesterday, big account, bigger account, and said, I really can't believe they said, I really can't believe you're falling for the Candace Owens thing. And I was like, you know, they said, did you sell out? I said, who the do you think is paying me to say that Brigitte Macron is a man? I mean, seriously, you know?
I'm having to fend off taunts from my colleagues about how ridiculous I am, so it's definitely not helping me.
I'm like, you lose money on.
Exactly.
No, nobody is paying us, you know. And so by the time I got done, kind of going back and forth with this person, I convinced them to listen to the series. You know, I was like, you listen to it because you haven't, and you already admitted you haven't, and then you come back and tell me that I'm the crazy one, all right? I was so annoyed with that. They're like, did you sell? What do you mean? Like, who the hell would be paying me to say that Brigitte Macron is a man? Okay?
Well, we should probably wrap up because I need to.
Yes,
but Dominic,
definitely.
Before you go, any final thoughts on this or any other issue you want to?
And where can people find you?
Yes,
well,
also
my
say
final
that.
thought on it is, when you go and try to actually argue the other point that she's still a woman, you're going to not really be able to find much. All you're going to find is mainstream articles saying that people are being slanderous and they're being conspiratorial and extremist, but you won't actually find any real proof like these pictures we're asking for, like many of the other documents and things that people are asking to be produced. You're not getting anything that's actually going to prove you otherwise. So that's just something that I think people should consider if they do want to go try to debunk this in her favor. Good luck. And as far as me, just follow me on Twitter, guys. Michael Tripi on X.
Yes.
Doing news, like for every 10 news posts, I'll throw out kind of like a spicy, opinion. Maybe it's a little spicier than you want. I was actually Charlemagne the God featured me on his radio show. I wasn't on the show, but he was just kind of talking smack about me for my Super Bowl DEI take. So yeah, follow me if you want political news and a little.
I trust you. That Dominic is like, if he tweets it out, I'm like, okay, I know that he's already checked it and I can share it. All right.
I appreciate that. Unfortunately, we got people targeting me these days. We had some Ukrainians not too happy about Trump saying that he was potentially going to exit NATO, which he did say. However, whatever. My tweet got to some Ukrainian bot farm on Telegram, and yeah, I got community notes I'm not supposed to get. But yeah, follow me on Twitter. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. That was definitely fun. All right.
Yes.
See you later. Bye.